Welcome to Old School Cool. Today we're going to take a look at one of the most magical actresses to come out of Hollywood in the 60s. But before that, I have to ask, would you like a $200 Amazon gift card? Well, who wouldn't? And all you have to do is hit that subscribe button below because we're giving one away and we're going to choose the lucky winner from our subscribers. And to be honest, we don't have a lot of subscribers, so you have a pretty good chance. Elizabeth Victoria Montgomery was an American film, stage, and television actress whose career spanned 5 decades. The daughter of actor Robert Montgomery, she began her career in the 1950s with a role on her father's television series Robert Montgomery Presents. She also won a Theatre World Award for her 1956 Broadway debut in the production Late Love. But she is most certainly best remembered for her leading role as Samantha Stevens on the television series Bewitched. Montgomery was born on April 15, 1933 in Los Angeles, California to Broadway actress Elizabeth Daniel Bryan Allen and film star Robert Montgomery. Montgomery's mother was a native of Kentucky and her father was from New York. She had an elder sister, Martha Bryan Montgomery, who died as an infant, and a younger brother, Robert Montgomery Jr. Montgomery was of Irish and Scottish descent, and her great-grandfather, Archibald Montgomery, was born in Belfast and then later immigrated to the United States in 1849. During her early years, she attended the Westland School for Girls. Later, she graduated from Spence School in New York City, after which she went to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Montgomery's life was far from normal, as even family friends included such names as Betty Davis. She grew up in their Beverly Hills mansion and spent much of her life trying to resolve the conflict with her famous and overbearing father. Being a member of Hollywood royalty, he was her toughest critic. He was also hard on her personal life as well, even criticizing the way she walked, her posture, and her penchant for older men. Robert Montgomery was a famous movie star of the 40s and 50s and a major TV star in the 60s, and Elizabeth struggled to escape his shadow. He didn't want her to become an actress in the first place, and that sparked the beginning of her resentment. He was also horrified as he thought she was trying to replace him with all her older lovers, which may not have been far from the truth. Elizabeth was a teen when her parents divorced, and that strained her relationship with her father even further. Her dysfunctional childhood family home haunted her for years. She was conflicted, trying to please her father, but also rebelling against him. Some years later, she even wanted him to play her father on Bewitched, but he refused, possibly resenting the fact that his daughter had become a bigger star than he was. Many years later, when she appeared in the TV movie The Legend of Lizzie Borden, about a woman accused of killing her parents with an axe, Robert Montgomery said, "You would." He took it as a personal affront, as if she secretly wanted to kill her own father. Robert Montgomery was also a staunch Republican, and Elizabeth became a fervent Democrat fighting for social causes that antagonized her father. She was one of the earliest stars campaigning for gay rights and supporting AIDS victims. Despite her pampered upbringing, she was unaffected and very down to earth. Perhaps that's why she bewitched so many of the men in her life. She walked away from the Hollywood life not liking the fakeness of its people. Elizabeth made her debut on her father's weekly TV show in 1951. After that, she appeared on 7 episodes of Kraft Theater. She then went on to appear in countless shows such as Cimarron City, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Loretta Young Show, Riverboat, One Step Beyond, The Twilight Zone, Rawhide, 77 Sunset Strip, and many others before landing her gig on Bewitched. She had even wanted to quit acting before she began filming Bewitched, but her husband Bill Asher told her, "Don't quit, you have too much talent." Elizabeth tired of Bewitched and tried to quit after the 5th season, but ABC offered her so much money that she couldn't refuse. But you can see by the final season that she's given up, and she's even plotting through each episode braless as a nod to women's liberation. She really didn't want to be there. When her contract was up, ABC offered her another fortune to stay, but she turned it down. After 8 seasons, she'd had enough. She wanted to get away from Samantha Stevens as far as she could. She always had a love-hate relationship with acting. That allowed her to pick and choose the roles that she really wanted after Bewitched finished. She ended up becoming the queen of TV movies. During this time, Montgomery was nominated for 8 Emmy Awards, but never won. This might have been because she refused to play the Hollywood game and didn't go to parties or take out ads begging for award consideration. She wanted her work to speak for itself. So now that you know a lot more about our favorite witch, let's take a look at 12 interesting facts about Elizabeth Montgomery. Number 12. Elizabeth Montgomery was pregnant during early filming of the first season. Montgomery wore progressively looser clothing to disguise her expanding waistline during the first season. Her subsequent 2 pregnancies, however, were written into the Bewitched script, adding Tabitha and Adam to the Stevens family. Number 11, it was Montgomery's idea to name her character's daughter Tabitha. I loved it because it was so old-fashioned, she said in 1967. I got it from one of the daughters of Edward Andrews, the actor. The 2 Andrews girls are named Tabitha and Abigail, but somehow or other, her name came out as Tabitha with an A on the credit roll, and that's the way it's been ever since. It used to drive Elizabeth crazy whenever she saw that. Number 10, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Being one of the sexiest and most desirable women in Hollywood, Montgomery cast a spell on such stars as Elvis Presley, Dean Martin, and Gary Cooper. She enchanted nearly every man she ever met, but suffered from a father complex which often led to her falling in love with older men or seeking out troubled lovers who abused her physically and mentally. According to Herbie Pilato, author of the biography Twitch Upon a Star, she seemed drawn to troubled men, not nice guys. She was always looking for the bad boy, which may have been part of her rebellion against her father. Please note that none of the following stories have been confirmed. However, she worked with Gary Cooper on the movie The Court-Martial of Billy Mitchell, and he had a thing for her. On top of that, he was an older man, which she loved. A stagehand caught the duo alone in Cooper's dressing room, sparking on-set scandal. Dean Martin was also smitten with her when they filmed Who's Been Sleeping in My Bed. He was a romantic and loved women, and again for Elizabeth there was the attraction of an older man. In the early 60s, she became a close friend of President John F. Kennedy, and Pilato says that he chased almost every beautiful woman he met, though if anything ever happened with Elizabeth, she never spoke of it. Elvis Presley was closer to her age when they co-starred in Kid Galahad, and he wanted her as well. Her much older husband got upset when he saw Elvis flirting with her on set. Among her most tormented lovers was former ballet star Alexander Godunov, who became a successful actor with films that included Die Hard and Witness. Elizabeth had an affair with him while with the man who became her 4th husband. Godunov was an alcoholic and she was drawn to him, perhaps hoping to rescue him. However, he was abusive and self-destructive. When Montgomery split from Godunov, he fell into a downward spiral and lost himself in an alcoholic haze. He eventually drank himself to death. As for husbands, her first husband was rich New York socialite Fred Kamen, who she met while filming a TV show. He was about a decade older than her and wanted her to quit acting and be a stay-at-home wife in New York. But Elizabeth had ambition, so she took off to California and a career, and their marriage went south. Her second husband was the Oscar-winning movie star Gig Young, some 25 years her senior, and at 48 almost her father's age. Because of this, her father was horrified. Elizabeth was 22 and infatuated, but Gig was an alcoholic, emotionally abusive, and probably physically abusive as well. She tried to save him, but their marriage was broke down already. It may have been a lucky escape as well, because Young shot his second wife to death and then killed himself in a murder-suicide. Montgomery's third husband was Bewitched producer Bill Asher, yet another old man. But that marriage struggled and he had affairs throughout Bewitched. Despite the success of Bewitched, which became one of America's top-rated TV shows, boredom set in after a few seasons and Montgomery launched into an affair with one of the directors, Richard Michaels, shattering both their marriages in 1971. Then she met former Falcon Crest star Robert Foxworth, 9 years her junior. They were together 20 years before they finally got married, but sadly she was diagnosed with cancer and died 18 months after they wed. Number 9, you can spot her in Salem. In June 2005, Montgomery's Bewitched character was immortalized with a bronze statue in Salem, Massachusetts, where the real-life witch trials took place. Number 8, the truth is in the nose. Samantha Stevens' trademark nose twitch was actually based on a real-life tic of Montgomery's. Asher noticed that her lip quivered when she got nervous, and he worked the facial distortion into the part. Number 7, she parodied her own Bewitched role in a beach movie. Montgomery made a cameo appearance as a witch in the 1965 beach party flick How to Stuff a Wild Bikini, which starred Mickey Rooney and Annette Funicello. Frankie Avalon and Buster Keaton also made appearances in the film. She also played Samantha Stevens in The Flintstones. Shortly before passing away from cancer in 1995, Montgomery voiced the role of a barmaid in an episode of Batman the Animated Series titled Showdown. The episode aired posthumously. Number 6, are you named Samantha? Well, you might have Elizabeth to thank for that. Montgomery played lovable witch Samantha Stevens on Bewitched for 8 seasons. It was meant to be 9, but her divorce from the show's director William Asher ended that possibility. The show was so cherished and highly rated that it sparked the popularity of the name Samantha, which was relatively rare before the 1960s. Number 5, she starred in the failed pilot for a Butch Cassidy spinoff. After Bewitched, Montgomery scored the part of Etta Place in the feature-length pilot for Mrs. Sundance, a TV sequel to the 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. When the feature-length pilot failed to excite audiences, Fox tried another reboot in 1976 with actress Katharine Ross, who originated the character in the film. Number 4, she received her first Emmy nomination for a role on The Untouchables. Montgomery appeared as prostitute Rusty Heller in a 1960 episode of the crime drama. She played opposite actor David White, who would later co-star with her in Bewitched as Darren's boss. Number 3, the Lizzie Borden connection is strong. Elizabeth Montgomery played the accused but acquitted axe murderer in a 1975 TV movie.
I'll see her dead first. Lizzie, you can spend the rest of your life begging crumbs off that old sow. Not I. Lizzie, please. You always frighten me when you get like this. He must never make a new will.
Genealogical research conducted after Montgomery died found that Montgomery and Lizzie Borden were actually 6th cousins once removed, both descending from 17th century Massachusetts resident John Luther. Number 2, she was almost one of Hitchcock's blondes. She so impressed horror maestro Alfred Hitchcock after appearing in an episode of his show Alfred Hitchcock Presents that he wanted her to play Sean Connery's sister-in-law in his 1964 film Marnie. Montgomery was unavailable and the role eventually went to Diane Baker. And number 1, Elizabeth Montgomery almost didn't star in Bewitched. Sol Sachs, who is credited on screen as the creator of Bewitched, has admitted in several interviews that his script for the pilot episode was inspired by the films I Married a Witch and Bell, Book and Candle, and said that originally he didn't have Elizabeth Montgomery in mind. Tammy Grimes, who'd won a Best Actress Tony Award in 1961 for The Unsinkable Molly Brown, was under contract to Screen Gems in 1964 and was the studio's first choice for the role of Cassandra, as the lead character was named at the time. Grimes was not a fan of the premise, asking why she wouldn't just use her powers to stop wars or deal with Los Angeles traffic. The producers didn't agree, so they parted ways, and the witch character, now named Samantha, had to be recast. Elizabeth Montgomery and her then-husband, producer-director William Asher, were looking for a television project that they could work on together, and Harry Ackerman encouraged them to take a look at Sachs' Bewitched pilot. The Ashers thought that the show had possibilities, and Liz signed on to be Samantha. At the time that Grimes was still scheduled to play the lead, a young actor named Richard Sargent was close to being signed on to play Darren Stevens. Sargent took another job while the pilot was in search for a new Samantha. Richard Crenna was the next actor offered the part of Darren, but he'd just spent several years on The Real McCoys, so he passed as well. Enter Dick York, who had an impressive list of acting credits in film, Broadway, and TV, and the rest is history. Elizabeth Montgomery and her role of Samantha Stevens will go on to live forever. Her death came quickly, only 6 weeks after colon cancer was diagnosed. She joked that she wanted pina colada in her IV drip, and when the end came in her 26-room Beverly Hills mansion, she sent her family away from her deathbed, wishing to die alone. She didn't want anyone to see her that way, and then she slipped away. She died May 18th of 1995, and we will always remember her fondly. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Old School Cool, because I really enjoyed making it. I really do like making these for you guys, and I try to make them on people that I really respect and grew up on as a kid. And if you like them, please subscribe. Not just because you'll get notified when I make new ones, but I'm giving away a $200 Amazon gift card, and I'm going to pick the winner from my subscribers. So click down below, and as always, I'll see you soon.